what this is all about, is your right to freedom of speech.
What made America great is an independent, vigorous press.
If a jerk burns a flag, America is not threatened.
Political speech is the heart of the First Amendment.
For expressing their religious beliefs.
Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children.
Welcome to Speaking Freely, a weekly conversation about free expression and the arts. I'm Ken Paulson. We're joined today by a highly successful actor with a special commitment to both theater and his hometown, Jeff Daniels. Welcome to the show. We're delighted to have you here. You know, you have not followed classic career moves. Just when your career is like hottest, you move to that hotbed of Hollywood activity, Michigan, right? What drove that?
Well, I'd been in New York for about almost 10 years. And I got out of the gate great as far as films went. I had done a little bit in Ragtime, Terms of Endearment, right to Woody Allen's Purple Rose of Cairo. Mike Nichols' Heartburn. I mean, he said, good enough for Woody, good enough for me. That was the audition. And so I was doing really well. And I could live anywhere. And I didn't want to live in Los Angeles at all. I was married. I had a 2-year-old boy at the time. We had a 1-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side of New York. And I just said, let's go back home. Because I didn't think this would last. I truly didn't. So we went back home knowing that we would fail, and I would land there. And, you know, and it worked for many years. I'd get on the plane and go to the movie, and I now have 3 kids, and they get to live in the Midwest, which we both call home. And, you know, and then just when it was supposed to end, I got Dumb and Dumber.
Wow. And was there a point at which you said, you know, this may not work, the career may be gone? I mean, that the living... Weekly, okay.
Yes. I was really, you know, thinking that this is, well, just give me another year, and then I can get out of here. But I kept succeeding just enough that by the time I was 30, I was going, well, I got to stick around and do this. And
you succeeded early, not just in film, but on Broadway, appearing in 5th of July. I understand that Lanford Wilson actually wrote that part for you. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, at 21, I moved to New York, and because I had a connection at the Circle Repertory Company, which at the time was perhaps the leading off-Broadway theater company for doing new American work. That's all they did. And to walk into that office downtown, and there's Lanford Wilson, whom I had done Hot L. Baltimore, his play, and I knew of him. But it never dawned on this corn-fed Midwestern actor that he would actually be alive. You know, playwrights are dead. You know, there's Shakespeare. There are people like that. And here's this playwright who had written this Hot Elf, which I loved, and he was in the middle of a second act that he was having difficulty with, and it was so exciting. It was so thrilling to see a living, breathing playwright, and that's what Circle Rep was. And within 2 years, he was writing another play, and he just kind of watched me, and he just tailored the part for me and 4 or 5 other people.
And that included Christopher Reeve?
No, Bill Hurt.
Okay.
We started the play on 5th of July off-Broadway in the spring of '78, and Bill Hurt was a member of the company at the time, and he wrote the lead for Bill and me and several other members of the company. And then Bill left after 6 weeks. And somebody else came in, and then when we finally went to Broadway, Chris took it over on Broadway.
Did you, as a young actor, you just want to work probably and find whatever kind of roles you can, but these are roles with great integrity. Did you turn down other things? I mean, were you selective as a young actor?
I was talking out of both sides of my mouth because I didn't want to wait tables. And so I would work at Circle Rep for $125 a week, doing 5th of July off-Broadway or whatever. And yet I was going up on McDonald's commercials, and so I landed a couple national commercials which paid my rent and allowed me to just go to the acting classes and just work at Circle. So I was kind of doing both, which was good, which was a great lesson, because later on, when I started getting into the films, unless you're on that A-list of guys that get to turn down 30 scripts before they choose the one,
right.
You're kind of mixing it up commercially and also the ones you really want to just love to do.
You mentioned your role in Ragtime, setting the stage then for your role in Terms of Endearment. Did you have any idea what a big movie that would be?
I knew I was lucky to be there on the set of Terms of Endearment. I mean, when you got Deborah Winger and Shirley MacLaine. And I remember being in the rehearsal room, and they didn't have the astronaut yet. And I got rent of $750 a month and $2 grand in the bank. And my wife, Kathleen, back in New York in the apartment, and I'm out in LA rehearsing with these two megastars. And the phone rings, and Jim Brooks, the director, walks over and just goes, yeah, we got Jack. And I'm going, Jack who? You know? And he goes, you're in a Jack Nicholson movie. And that's when I was just, everything I've ever learned, let me please remember it right now, because I'm going to need it, I think.
One of the things I loved about reading about your career and your comments about your films is you've never stopped being a fan. You know, when you went to go for Purple Rose of Cairo, I mean, you're in awe of Woody Allen. Oh yeah, not only the director and the body of work, but the writer. That's when I really got around, you know, the writing of it. And Circle Rep had done that too. Lanford, you know, just seeing the process for the first time instead of just the published, finished script. You're seeing it come together, just like a performance, and it fascinated me. Then to see Woody do that on film. When we were shooting Purple Rose of Cairo, we would shoot the first draft, you know, we would shoot the first draft of the scene, say, or sometimes even the movie, because we came back so much and reshot scenes. But he had that luxury, which is a great thing to be able to do. And then we would do 3 or 4 takes, and then he would go, all right, and he'd pull that speech out, move that one up, take this, and go, I'll be right back, and then rewrite a little bit, and then hand you that. How long do you need? 5 minutes would be good. Give Jeff 5, and then come in and do it that way. And it was just him getting options, him working the writing, was just fascinating for me. It really was. It was a big setup for, you know, the writing of plays and screenplays I'd do later. Purple Rose was well received. It holds up very well. The next movie you did, Something Wild, are you surprised at the legs of that? I mean, people still talk about it. It's not a cult film, but it's much appreciated. Well, it is. It is a cult film because I remember they released it as kind of a Chevy Chase, yuck comedy, and not with Jonathan Demme. Right. I remember standing on the set of that film and looking around and seeing behind me this motorcycle with a dog on it, and the dog had a helmet strapped to the back seat of the Harley or whatever, and I'm going, this is like Woody. This is Jonathan Demme. If you look at the frame, that's Jonathan. This is a Jonathan Demme frame. This is what he's doing with it, and so I knew that the movie was good. I knew that it would last, and I knew the violent turn that it takes, about 2/3, would split the critics in half. But I'm not surprised that one has lasted. I'm really not. At what stage in your film career did you then say, I'm going home? Was it shortly after that? Or? It was right before, I think right before, it was 1986. Right. It was right around Something Wild. And yeah, I just went home. I just didn't want to be in New York, and I'm not a big fan of LA, so that wasn't an option. And in addition to being at home in the Midwest where you're comfortable, you make a commitment to start a theater company, really. Yeah, after I was there a while, I went there in '86 and played a lot of golf and pretended I wasn't in the movie business, which was great. But then what I missed was the creativity and that you get on a good movie set or on a good production of a play, the rehearsal process, where you get around people that are as creative and have that active imagination that Circle Rep did, right, or that certain films did, and you're just going. I didn't have that. I was playing golf, and I wasn't writing. I wasn't doing anything. I was just waiting for the phone to ring, and I just said, there must be people around here that either went to New York, Chicago, LA, and didn't make it, or never went, have kids, but given the chance, could still do it. And so I bought this wooden warehouse in this 5,000-person town, Chelsea, right near Ann Arbor. At the time we bought it, if there were 25 businesses downtown, 12 of them were boarded up. And we opened the theater, and I led with a lot of comedies because I just believe in that art form. But I also felt that was a great way to get people in the door, because there's a huge audience out there that rents movies and watches them on their VCR, or that just sits in front of the tube. How do you get that guy off his couch into a theater?
comedy is a great way to do it, and that's what we did. Within 2 years, there were restaurants, there were coffee shops, there were art galleries, and there was a waiting list for any business that failed in that town. I mean, that theater completely turned that town around economically.
And could other communities do that without Jeff Daniels?
It's a tough thing. Yeah, they can do it, but I think there's a way to do it where you aim at the audience. You know, Marcia Norman's a great playwright, and she said, at least she was quoted to have said, that if you're only going to write for yourself, then you're going to play to an audience of one. And you can go the wrong way by just going, well, let me write something that's completely to the lowest common denominator, like a lot of formula films are. Or let's just not ignore the fact that at the end of the day, you want someone to come in here, see this thing that you wrote, leave, and when they see their friends say, you need to go see this thing. That's the bottom line of what I think a lot of theaters forget. We're giving you something that's good for you, and it's like asparagus. You have to eat asparagus, and whether you like it or not, because it's good for you. Well, you're not going to get anybody interested in you that way.
The challenge of doing theater in a community, smaller community, I think you've upped the ante as well, because I understand you have developed a mechanism to encourage people to write, to produce, and to develop material specifically about the Midwest. Are those the guidelines?
And that's the other thing too that a lot of theaters don't do, and we did. Whether there are others, I don't know. But people want to hear things about them. You know, it's okay. We don't have to wait for what was popular on off-Broadway last year and do the premiere production here in the Midwest of whatever Mamet wrote or Shepard wrote or Lanford wrote or whomever. You know, you find the writers around there. You've got to learn how to develop the writing, and you got to learn how to turn that 120 pages into a play. But once you learn how to do that, then you're right, and get them to write about your corner of the country, wherever you are. They'll come in droves. I mean, that's all I would do. The first 5 plays that I wrote for the theater, ignoring the fact that the celebrity factor, I was writing plays about Michigan and about that corner of the country. There aren't a lot of plays about that corner of the country. And suddenly people were coming in and they were looking in the mirror, you know? And it sells tickets. And it also, you know, it justifies you know, that you're not stupid, that you're not, you know, as an audience member, you're not just everything's going over your head like in the Midwest, you know, they all think that we're, you know, idiots. We get the jokes. We just don't think jokes about Newark are funny.
When you write a play about Michigan, can you export it? Will it play in Houston?
It's a little tricky. Like I wrote one play, Escanaba in the Moonlight, about 5 guys in a deer camp in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and they've all got upper, you know, Yooper accents and the whole deal. It plays better in like the 5-state region, but it was done. Tim Busfield has a theater company. He was 30-something on West Wing, and he's had a great career. And Timmy's got a theater out in Sacramento called the B Street Theater Company, and he's done 4 of my plays, one of which was Escanaba. And I got a lot of Michigan jokes in there. He said, he had his first wife, I think, or current wife, I'm not sure, was from Jackson, Michigan. Anyway, he didn't change a joke. And it was out of 42 main stage plays, it was their number 4 box office play. It can travel, you know, and it can. I mean, look at Full Monty, look at Waking Ned Devine, look at these, you know, movies that were in Ireland or in London or whatever, and then yet, you know, they transfer.
What is the culture, for those who have not spent any quality time in the Upper Peninsula, what can you describe that, why it's different from Tempe, Arizona?
Well, it's brutally honest. The BS factor is way down. If they even sense there's an ego or arrogance on you, they will cut your knees out. There's a great love of family. There's a great there's a great sense of we don't need anybody else. There's a joke in Escanaba, if we'd wanted company, we'd have let you build the Mackinac Bridge a lot sooner. And they're very content to be up there by themselves, leave us alone. And inside of all that are decades of families and generations, and that's what the deer camp was. and still is for many, many, many people. I know my wife's family still has a deer camp there that's been since, 3, 4 generations. And they go to that camp every year, the traditions, the rituals. It's really, and plus it's beautiful country up there.
How did people from the UP react to Escanaba and to Moonlight?
9 out of 10 of them were thrilled. If you have a sense of humor about yourself, you know that when you go to deer camp, it's strange things can happen. And so I got a lot of people that said, "Oh, I got a deer hunting story for you," and so they all understood that the outrageousness of what happened in this particular deer camp was, they recognized and were pretty comfortable with. When we shot the film there, which we shot in Escanaba, I think part of it was the thrill of just watching a movie being made, but also the fact that we were dumping almost $1 million, being a low budget indie, but a low $1 million into their community by hiring local people, getting materials from them, renting property, all that stuff, they loved that. And so that all made it good. There were a couple people that driving by with the gun rack and the pickup with the sign in the back saying, go back to Hollywood. I had the one guy in a complete head-to-toe Green Bay Packer outfit in a restaurant come over to me, and I was sitting with a couple of other actors, and he's going, right off the bat, "You Mr. Daniels?" "Yeah, yeah." "Are you here to make fun of us?" And I said, "No, just Packer fans."
I used to live in Green Bay. I think I may know that guy.
Yeah,
They take a lot of pride in the city.
They take far too much pride.
I know that you took Escanaba and turned it into a film project, and then you've got to take it somewhere other than Michigan to sell. I presume one of the coasts. What kind of reaction to this Heartland story do you get from?
I got a lot of blank. I mean, we didn't get picked up nationally. We showed it to pretty much every distributor one at a time. So you can imagine a wild comedy about deer hunting where they're talking like this, eh? They're talking this all the time. And they're like this the whole time. And you got this junior executive sitting in a screening room in Elegant A going, "I wonder if this is funny. I wonder if I'm not understanding this." So we didn't get picked up, but we decided to release it ourselves, and it did really, really well. And it set up the ability to do another one.
Of course, the reality is that there are people in the Midwest watching New York-driven or LA-driven media and entertainment going, I don't get it. Why is it that an entire section of the country has just sort of been ignored?
Well, the joke is, the joke is that, the reason they invented, nobody wants to see the Midwest. That's why they invented nonstops. We just right over us. But I've never agreed, and Escanaba bothered me in the fact that it didn't get picked up because, well, this is how we do it, is what we were told. We pick up your film and we release it in New York, one theater in New York and one theater in LA, so they can review it, and then maybe we let it come out. And I'm going, to hell with New York and LA. What about the bajillion markets in between? The people that, need a night out and aren't looking for a New York Times or LA Times review. But that's not the way it's done. And so, in our own little way, we tried to beat that with Escanaba, and we did $2.2 million in 2 states. And we just, decided to take that money and give it back to the investors as opposed to, rolling it out in 5 more states or, whatever. And with Super Sucker, the second film we did, with many more Purple Rose actors, we're hoping to get picked up, but we'll see.
And is it viable? Can you actually do independent film and make money in this country?
Yes. Yes, it's hard. You have to have money to start with, and it doesn't have to be 10 million, but there are distribution costs, even if you four-wall it. If you, even as they say, you go out to the theater owners yourselves and you call up the multiplexes and you go, "Do you have a screen? Give me a weekend and I'll give you something that'll last 4 weeks," which we did with Escanaba. If you can prove to them that you can make money, and then you have radio stations and people to help you promote it, where you just go, which is what we did. We blitzed the 2 states. Then yeah, but it's a lot of work. It's It's not enough just to shoot it, you know. And I think a lot of filmmakers think their job is done. And being one of the two guys that owns Perhoros Films, you got to see it all the way through distribution.
A film about vacuum cleaner salesman, door to door, is that what it is? That wouldn't get made in Hollywood, right?
Oh, it'd get made. It wouldn't be this film. And it would probably star Bill Murray because it's a great part for Bill. It really is. But, you know, I didn't want Bill to do it, so I wrote it for myself. And part of the reason why we wanted to be independent was, and raise the money privately, was that we think we know what we're doing. And I don't want to go through development hell, and I don't want you to turn it into a kind of hybrid of two other movies that it reminds you, the development person, of. I don't want to make it like something you've seen before. I want it to be different. And that doesn't help us because they, you know, distributors will see it and go, I don't know what it is. I can't pinpoint it. It's not like anything I've seen. We think that's a good thing. But we aren't going to get to do that if we're going down their little checklist and they're reading their structure book, Sid Feld's structure book, and all these how to write a screenplay books, closing it and then giving me notes based on the chapter they just read.
A movie that, well, those of us who work in the area of free speech loved was Pleasantville, which would not have been, I would think, sort of a classic Hollywood model. I mean, that's a challenging movie.
Yeah, it was a testament to Gary Ross, who wrote and directed it. And Gary had written Dave and Big, I think, and a few other things. He's one of the top screenwriters in LA, and he had this just this great script about, you know, art, about the discovery of art, and he used the metaphor of color, black and white versus color, and going into this black and white world where everything is the same. This TV show where there are only 22 episodes, and that's our whole world, and that's all we know. It was a great little trick, and to be one of the characters in that world who changes, who gets a book on art and painting opened in front of him, and all this color comes up. For the first time he sees color. I mean, when I read the script, I just said, this is kind of what I've been doing, you know, with Circle Rep to my theater in Michigan. I said, it just spoke to me, the script. And so I loved making that movie.
A far different movie, Dumb and Dumber.
And then there's Dumb and Dumber.
Which is, in terms of endearment, came at a time when you really needed sort of breakthrough, and you're talking about your rent. Did Dumb and Dumber serve that purpose later in your career?
Dumb and Dumber was, my career had kind of started to do this. And, you know, I was on that kind of, what do we have to do to get nominated, you know, trap. And I was getting tired of it, and no one had really asked if I could do comedy, and I knew I could. Something Wild, I had done it, and Purple Rose of Cairo a little bit, but nobody really, the outrageous stuff. And I just said, let me shake it up. So I went out and read for a bunch of movies. One of them was Dumb and Dumber. Went in and read with Jim. And Jim was, you know, I heard it said, the guy from Gettysburg, he's not funny. I mean, and Pete Farrelly and Bobby Farrelly were going, no, you got to see him, man. I mean, he'll do it. So I came in and read with Jim, and it was over after the first 2 lines of a 2-page scene. I mean, we just kind of, you know, I did this hair thing. I just kind of blanked out, and Jim, you know, went into this smile, and Pete said you could see it right then, you know. And so that was thrill, because I got to work with Jim, who is as a comedian, as a comic actor, as a person who looks at things comedically in life. To get in between action and cut with somebody like that, it's a tennis match against Sampras or Agassi. You know, there's stuff coming at you, and you better be ready. You know? So
you went from a point where people weren't thinking of you in terms of comedy. Then did you get a bunch of Dumb and Dumber-like scripts after that?
Yeah, now he can't do drama. Yeah, now
Although,
it's like, that guy, he can't be serious.
Didn't you fix that by playing George Washington?
Oh, but you don't care after a certain point, yeah. You know. You go, can I create an image? Let me do what they did in the old days and what I'm supposed to do now, which is create an image and be that guy, you know, every movie. And then do interviews about the acting and the research it took. All I'm doing is bringing up the same bag of tricks. And from day one at Circle Rep, we were told, no, you're a different character. You know, we want characters. And I just admired the guys like Peter Sellers, you know, Alan Arkin, you know, guys like that, guys that were mixing it up. And it seemed like, you know, for somebody like me that wanted to do other things, like move back to Michigan, start a theater, that to lengthen the career, I should be mixing it up instead of trying to find some image that you might learn in star school, you know. So that's what I did. That's why I can go from Dumb and Dumber to Gettysburg to Pleasantville to Super Sucker, and people call and just go, oh, he can do that. If he can go from here to here, he can do this. So
you've done all that, and you've launched independent theater, independent films. What's the future hold?
Now I get to do stuff that I want to do, you know. We'd love to make a third film. I love writing plays for the theater company back there. We're getting more and more of a national reputation for doing new work as one of the theaters in the country that focuses on new work. And when the movies call, it's, you know, who am I working with, you know? With whom am I working? It's like, one is Clint Eastwood. I'm doing a Clint Eastwood movie right now. And not only to work with Clint, but also to he's directing it as well, to watch how he directs and then steps in front of the camera. Something I've done twice. He's done, what, 20 times? It's a great classroom, you know? So it's fun now.
Great. Terrific to talk to you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Join us next time as we continue our discussion on free expression and the arts. For more information about Speaking Freely, visit our website at www.speakingfreely.org.